How's it going, everyone? Adam here from Coding Basics, and welcome to tutorial number 19 in my Introduction to Python series. In this video, we're going to finish learning about classes. More specifically, we're going to be talking about class inheritance. Now, not one, but two tutorials ago, I tried to explain what classes were because I know it is a hard concept to wrap your mind around if you're new to computer science. So just to drive in a little bit further, I found an example hierarchy here just to kind of put it in perspective. So you can have a person class, and then you can create what are known as subclasses. So they're more specified classes. So there's a general person class, but then you can create subclasses, for example, a student, an employee, maybe a teacher, an author. So all of these are technically people, so they're instances of this person class, they're just more specified. Now, the one thing is when you have a subclass, this student here has their student card ID, but they also still have these age and name variables as part of them. They're just more specified, and then they have different instance variables than this one would. So when we create an instance of the student object, we can still call the age and name variables, but if we have an instance of a person object, we wouldn't be able to call a student card ID. So that is what I was trying to get across, my whole point. I was trying to give you guys a bunch of different angles to look at it from. Hopefully everyone gets it by now. So let's go to Notepad. I've already created this file called inheritance.py. And I just copied and pasted over the student class we made in the last tutorial. Now, just to make our hierarchy make a little bit more sense, I'm going to kind of copy the hierarchy in that image that I showed you. So we're going to call this class a person instead. Now, the only other thing we have to change as well is passing in object. We are going to be making a hierarchy here. So first, we are going to create a new subclass known named student. So start the same way, class, and then give it a name. Now, in this little parameter field here, we have to pass in the name of our superclass. So the student class is a subclass of person. Person is the superclass of student. So that's their relationship. So we're going to pass in person. And now we can make all our methods. Now, first thing, and this is where the creation of our class takes place. It's our init method. So define underscore underscore init underscore underscore. Oops, I forgot an I in there. My bad. Okay. And then we need to put in some parameters here. Now, as usual, we're going to put in self. And first, we're just going to pass in all these same variables right here. So the first name, the last name, and the age variables that we had. If you're new to this, like you didn't watch the last tutorial number 18, I'd go watch that just to make sure you know what's happening with this whole class here. Might help you. Now, when we want to create an instance of this, we could always create the exact same constructor. But why do that? We're going to reuse the constructor that we made here because it's a subclass, so we have access to its methods. Like I said, here, the student class still has access to call all these variables. But also, one thing it doesn't show here, it also has access to all the methods. So we might as well reuse that method. And to do that, we're going to call the super method. Oops, super. Now, what we have to pass in here is student, so the name of the subclass we're creating, and then self. Pretty much anything when it has to do with classes, you got to pass self in. And now, so what we're doing here, we're calling the super method. So we're going to pass in the student class, since that's our subclass. What we're going to do is we're going to call the supers, so our superclasses, init method. So underscore underscore init underscore underscore. Now, we got to look up here to the init method. The init method takes as parameters self. We already got that passed in here, but we now also have to include the first name, the last name, and the age variables. which are passed in right here as well. So we can just copy that, Control C, Control V, and we got our constructor created. Now, how our student is going to differ from a person is it's also going to have a variable called grades, which is going to be a list of different grades that the student has earned. So we're going to say self.grades equal G, and we'll pass in G as a parameter up here. So that is our init method taken care of. Now let's test that to make sure everything is working fine. I'm already in the folder where I have this file saved. Navigate there if you haven't. So call python -i inheritance.py. Make sure you put in the -i so we can play around with the classes. So let's create a new instance of this student. So I'm just going to call this student S. And we're going to create an instance of student. What we're going to pass in here, Sydney Crosby. I don't know his actual age, so we'll just pass in number 87, his jersey number. And then final thing we gotta pass in is grades. Oops, I messed up there. We want to put an integer, not a string, for the age. And then we are going to pass in grades, which is going to be in square brackets because we're making a list. So let's say for grades, he got an 83, a 79, 92, all right. And then 91, all right. So that's his grades. Hit enter. So now we have this new student class created. Now we can type in S. And you can see it's an instance of our student class. This is the location where it's stored. We can call s.grades. And there is the list of grades that the student object has associated with it. We can also print it. And so print s. You'll notice that it's reusing the string method we have up here. So just remember that. It has access to all the methods. When we're going to print something, it's going to start by looking in the subclass for this __str method. When it doesn't find that, it's going to move up the hierarchy until it either comes across one of these __str__ methods, or if there's not one there, then it's just going to print out a message similar to this. So what we can do, we can create a new string method here just to kind of emphasize it a little bit more. So define __str__ self. And what's going to happen, it's going to be similar to here. So we'll it'll be their first name, comma last name, and then what we're going to do, we'll put a colon, and then we'll print out the string representation of their age. So it'll be a little bit different. Now, okay, let's run that now. So quit. And we're going to rerun our program. Alright, so the exact same constructor I'm going to use. Now let's print s. Okay, we got an issue here. Oops. Sorry, my bad. I don't even know why I did that, but we should be printing out self.age. Don't know what I was thinking there. I guess I was just looking at the constructor variable for the age. Alright, now it should work after my little mistake there. Okay. Print s. There we go. So, exactly what we wanted. We now have a new constructor. But just to show you, let's create a person object. So p equals person. And as the parameters, we'll pass in Evgeny Malkin. And then we will put in age. No, actually, I think I've screwed up here. No, I haven't. Okay. Oh, maybe I did. I don't know. Oh, no, I didn't. I'm just reading it wrong. Oh, okay, never mind. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me at all. Alright, and you'll see, since it's an instance of the person object, it's not going to include the age in the printout. So, exactly what we wanted to do. Now, let's make another superclass, just to create a new one. So we'll call this class teacher, and we will pass in as a parameter person once again, because it's an instance of the person class. And now we can create an init method again. Now, before I do that, I just want to say you could create a subclass of the student class. So if we wanted to, we could pass in, student here instead, and then it would be an instance of the student class, like a subclass of the student class, I'm trying to say. Okay. But now let's just copy this just to save a little bit of time. But the only thing I'm going to change is put an S here. And what this new instance variable is going to be is salary. Okay. And once again, I'm going to create a string method of it. So Control C, Control V. And we are going to include here weekly salary is equal to, and then we'll pass in here, so self dot salary divided by, so there's 52 weeks in a year, so divided by 52. That's what we want to happen. Okay, now let's run that again, just to make sure I didn't make any errors. So T equals teacher, and the parameters will be I don't know what a first name is. John. Let's go with John Smith, the classic name. So John Smith's the teacher's name. He is age 56, we'll say, and his annual salary is $52,000. Okay. We do have an error indeed. Okay, I passed in something wrong. Okay, what did I do wrong here? Let's see. Oops. My apologies. I forgot to change here student to teacher. Alright, that should be the end of that error. Alright. And now we're just going to print out T. And there we go. Everything worked out fine. He makes $1,000 a week, apparently. Now, the only other thing I want to say is you can redefine what it means to be equal. So, let's do that now. Let's just change it for the teacher class. So, a teacher is equal if their first names are the same, their last names are the same, and how about if their salary is the same? Sure. Okay. So self dot salary equals other dot salary. Now once again, it'll start, if we wanted to check to see if two teachers were equal, it would just use this. If we wanted to check if two students are equal, we don't have an equals method defined here, so it's going to go up to the superclass, the person one, and this is going to be the definition of two students being equal. Alright, so that is exactly what we wanted. Let's create, so I got to exit out quickly. Alright, and we'll create two of these teacher variables, T and T2. And they will be equal, of course, so we'll just say T equals T2, and we should get a true. We get a true. So, exactly what we wanted to happen. Now, you can create new methods. So, define get average is one I was thinking about earlier. So, what we're going to do is we're going to return. Actually, we'll skip the return statement for a second. First, we're going to do is get the sum. So sum equals 0 for x in self.grades sum plus equals x. And then we're going to return sum divided by the length of self dot grades. So that's going to be our average method. Let's do that now. Okay, so I'm just going to clear just to get rid of some of that mess. Okay, rerun this, and I'm going to create 2 students again. Where are they? Here. So we got this student. Now let's call s.get average. Average. Okay, it didn't look right, my spelling. Okay, and since we're calling a method, we got to use open close brackets. So his average is 86. Now, just for an example, again, let's go try to find that person class I made of Genny Malkin. Here we go. Now, if we try p.getAverage, we're going to get an error because the getAverage is not defined in our in the person class. So there you go, an error. So as you can see, this is how you do class inheritance. This is the superclass of these two. These two are subclasses of this one. So that's their relationship. You can inherit constructors. So in this case here, we reuse this constructor to give our student first name, last name, and age. But then the student has a unique variable called grades, which the person does not. We redefined our string method, so there's a custom string method. The computer will start, or Python will start by looking in the subclass. If it cannot find the string method, it's going to move up to the superclass until it finds one, same as being equal. Now, the student class can call methods that the superclass has. So we can do s.sayHello, and it will use this method here, but only the student class can call this getAverage. The superclass cannot. And pretty much all of the stuff I just said, same for teacher.